When Tim created Fortnite, the first words out of his friend's mouth were, "This won't work." Since that day, Fortnite dominated the world, passing 300 million downloads and being talked about everywhere, turning the CEO Tim into a billionaire. So how was Tim able to build such a widely successful game? What secret did Tim know about gaming that all other gaming companies failed to understand? And what's the new plan to come to keep Fortnite relevant? I hope you're ready for the untold story behind the world's most successful game and the genius behind it all. It was all started by a man named Tim Sweeney. Tim was born on October 6, 1970 and grew up in Potomac, Maryland. His childhood was pretty simple. Like most CEOs, he shared similar traits. He tended to keep to himself, work hard, and with a passion for tech, it was clear Tim Sweeney would soon make a name for himself. Growing up, he played a lot of video games. His favorites were Adventure and Ultima, which he played on the Apple II computer. A game he played as a child inspired him to dream of creating his own video game someday, but no one would expect where this passion would lead him. In high school, Tim was a really good student and strived to get good grades. In his free time, he started experimenting with different software tools and also started taking his passion for coding more seriously, dedicating hours each day to perfect his craft. While still a young high school kid, he started developing short, simple games in the early 1980s, which would lead to his first successful video game. But first, he had to graduate high school. In 1988, he walked the stage after graduating with an honors-level GPA from Potomac High School in Dumfries, Virginia, and headed to college at the University of Maryland to get his degree in mechanical engineering. But his passion for gaming and coding will go with him. While Tim was in college, he began to be extremely frustrated because it was so time-consuming, and with all his time and dedication he spent doing schoolwork, he felt that he wasn't learning the skills he needed to pursue his passion for game development. Between studying for exams and keeping his game development dream alive, he didn't have much time for social interactions or parties like most people his age would typically do. 1989 was his first year in college and was the start of developing his first video game using a programming language called BASIC. Then, during his second year of college in 1991, after years of hard work, his first video game was finally complete. The game was called ZDIT. It was space-themed, where you go on an adventure, explore a series of interconnected worlds, and defeat enemies that come your way. It was a pretty simple game, but for the time being, this was big. And at such a young age, everyone knew there was much more to come. Tim's friends and family loved what he was doing and encouraged him to make the game available for others to play. Then that same year, in 1991, Tim listed his game on Shareware, which was a free-to-download software. Basically, this means that people from around the world can download and play the game for free. But Tim knew that if he wanted to keep his dream alive, he needed to make some kind of money on the game. Tim decided to use the honor system and play on people's kindness to fund his passion. While the game was still free to play, he encouraged gamers to pay a registration fee if they enjoyed it, so he can keep updated with updates and new versions of his game, ZET. He didn't want much and it wasn't mandatory, but Tim managed to collect large sums of money from his game. This was when Tim knew if he did it once, he could do it again, but this time it was much bigger. During his sophomore year at age 20, Tim dropped out of college with $4K in savings and moved back into his parents' basement. While his parents were big supporters of him, they really pushed him to get a job somewhere and work on game development in his free time. But Tim knew a job would also be a distraction for him and push him further away from his dreams. So instead of a job, we went on to create several more video games like Jill of the Jungle in 1992, Epic Pinball in 1993, and so many more. All of his games went well. After getting tons of positive reviews and growing a large gaming fan base, he knew he was onto something big. So big that Tim wasn't only posting his games on Shareware like when he first started with ZZT. He began selling his games through mail orders. He made it so that interested buyers could find information on how to order the paid version of the game in the documentation that came with the free Shareware version, and also through advertisements in gaming magazines. People would then email Tim, send him cash or a check through the mail, and Tim would package it up and ship it straight to the buyer. Before the widespread use of the internet and digital distribution platforms, this was a common distribution method for shareware games, relying only on verbal trust. With each package, Tim did something very unique to help spread the word. In each package he would ship out, he would include a handwritten letter asking the buyer to spread the word about the game to their friends and family. And the letters seemed to work, because soon Tim Sweeney had trouble keeping up with the demands of his video games. This was when Tim began to see some big profits. He used the money to travel around the US, attending gaming conventions and trade shows to continue to promote his games. He began networking with other developers and industry professionals who shared similar interests with him. This is where he would meet Mark Rain. These two will go on to create epic games after attending these events. Tim knew his games were good, but not great. One major downfall was the graphics. It just wasn't clear, and his games often glitched. With technology getting more advanced each year, creating new games with advanced graphics and gameplay became his main focus. And once he perfected that, he began to explore new ways to showcase his games in retail stores. Tim and his new friend Mark Rain founded their own company, calling it Potomac Computer Systems, which would later become Epic Games. But for now, Mark and Tim agreed to make Potomac Computer Systems their main priority and always put the company first, which would make these tech gurus unstoppable. PCS, or Potomac Computer Systems, was a software company that specialized in the development of video games for PC and Amiga platforms. At the time, the two didn't want to take out loans to fund PCS. Instead, it was fully funded by the remaining revenue of earlier games Tim had created in the past, which was about $4,000 back in 1992. That would be equivalent to just under $10,000 today. In 1992, they changed the name of the company to Epic Mega Games, then again to Epic, which is the company we all know and love today. This would also be the start of when the two went on to take the gaming community by storm, creating some of the best-selling video games of their time. Popular ones like Gears of War in 2006, which had over 27 million copies sold worldwide. This put Epic Games in the spotlight once again for console games, and the two didn't stop there. There was one place Tim and Mark were dying to tap into, and that's with the App Store. Back in the 2010s, the App Store was on fire, and all eyes were on iPhone gaming. Users were always desperately waiting for the latest game to hit the App Store. Mark and Tim had to act on this, and fast. So in 2010, together, they developed Infinity Blade. Within the same year, Infinity Blade was exploding, rapidly reaching its way to the top of the App Store, earning countless awards and being recognized for its graphics and gameplay. At this point, the two were millionaires, extremely successful and well-respected in the gaming community. But what would happen next would crush all past sales records, and Epic would be a name known and played absolutely everywhere and by everyone, even being responsible for over 200 divorces. Fortnite. Yep, Fortnite, which is why I assume you clicked on this video. This would be the game the world would end up going crazy about. But it's important to know where the duo even got the idea from. In an interview, the two explained that they got the idea by combining two very different types of video games, Minecraft and Battlegrounds. The two knew this would create something the brand new hadn't been combined into one game before, while giving you the freedom to build, but also giving you that exciting thrill that often comes with first-person shooter games. In 2017, Fortnite first became available for early access gameplay on July 25th. During this time, Tim and Mark had one simple strategy to make Fortnite a worldwide success. The success strategy also included encouraging players to provide feedback and report any bugs or issues they encountered. This would lead to the game having multiple updates, adding new features, weapons, and gameplay mechanics. All of this would lead to the official and final development of Fortnite. Fortnite's early access would last 1 year before its official release on September 26, 2018. Over the course of its first year, Fortnite's popularity exploded, taking the gaming industry by storm. By March 2018, the game had over 45 million players, and by the end of that year, it had over 200 million. People just couldn't get enough of the unique building aspect of a shooting game so much so that it began trending all over the internet, turning Fortnite into a cultural phenomenon. With players and non-players players all getting swept up in the game's hype. From dance moves, memes, live streamer reactions, and merchandise, Fortnite was taking over and gamers were hooked. At the same time, Mark and Tim were capitalizing on the game's profit in any way they could. From here, they paid out large amounts of money to get gamer YouTubers to live stream themselves, then going as far as organizing large-scale events and tournaments with millions of dollars in prize money. Following the first couple of successful years, like all good things in life, they always come to an end. The hype around Fortnite started moving downward after hitting its peak, and today, Fortnite has constant updates to keep it fresh and exciting, at the same time doing big collaborations with just about everything, seeing collaborations with music from famous artists like the Marshmello Concert or Travis Scott, to TV shows like Rick and Morty and Stars. Fortnite has covered it all.